Well, if everybody speaks for 3 minutes, we ought to get you on about 6 to 9. My coworker decided I should go home.
Filled with moments. Moments we share with those we love, worry about, and strive to protect the most. At Woodman Life, we provide insurance and retirement products to help protect you and your family so that you can enjoy all the moments to come.
Oh yeah, that's a good start.
Oh yeah, they always ended up. And here we are. Yeah.
Come back out there.
They're all here to hear you.
Please sign in on the sign-in sheet, ma'am. Did you sign in? Okay, thank you. Just as another reminder for people who are still coming in, please turn your cell phones and your communication devices to off or vibrate, if you would, please, before we get started today. Appreciate it. Everybody, please sign in as you come in. Please sign in the sign-in sheet. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd all rise, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance with Mr. Mike Marston lead us in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. This is a record day for this board of Montezuma County Commissioners. A large audience, and I think we all know why a lot of you are here this morning, and we'll be giving that attention here shortly after we get the minutes and stuff taken care of. Could I have a motion on our minutes of our previous Board of Commissioners meeting?
Yes, sir. I move to accept the proceedings of the Board of Commissioners, Montezuma County, Colorado, February 19, 2019.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the proceedings of the Board of County Commissioners of Montezuma County for February 19, 2019. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, our next order of business is going to be public comment, and I have a feeling many of you are here for that purpose this morning. We're going to run this public comment a maximum of 2 hours. We will allow each person that wishes to come before us. We're going to give you 3 minutes to speak, and we're going to be very cognizant of that. We're not going to let people run over that. So you have 3 minutes to state to the commissioners what you would like to state to us today. We're not here to be a conversational with you. We want you to come to the microphone, tell the commissioners what you want us to hear, and then proceed back to your seats. So we will now open this meeting to public comment. We would like to have you come around. Jedediah is kind of, I hope there's room over there on that side of you.
Yep.
Yeah. And before we get to that, we're going to have our county administrator put our resolution, the sanctuary resolution, on the screen above. We'll have our attorney, Mr. Baxter, read that resolution so everybody hears and understands what's in that resolution, and then we will proceed to public comment.
So Shaq will get it up here in a minute, and I'll go ahead and read through it. It's pretty short. It's just a one-page resolution. My understanding was that this was going to be a draft, and then we would discuss it, and potentially, I don't know whether or not it was going to be adopted or edited or changed today, or my initial understanding was that it was going to be discussed and maybe adopted in a couple of weeks, but it's just a resolution, so we could do it today if you all would like to proceed that way. I looked at several different counties' resolutions, one of which actually did use the word sanctuary. It's a resolution, it's not a law, and as the Board of County Commissioners in Colorado, at least, we have elected sheriffs. It's different than, I think, some of the other states' sanctuary cities that they've done, because they hire and fire their police chief, and they can say you're going to enforce this law or you're not going to enforce this law. Because we have an elected sheriff and we're not a city, I didn't use the word that we will or will not enforce any law. It's more of a position statement,
right,
stating that the commissioners support your right to keep and bear arms, and that we view any infringement upon that as a constitutional violation. But as soon as he gets it up, I will read it.
And it also states in their due process, which is another important constitutional right.
And I think, and again, of course, you all can discuss it, the public can discuss it. I think this came about just because of House Bill 1177, which is a proposed. Sorry.
Volume up.
I think this came about because of House Bill 1177, which is a proposed law to make it easier to request emergency orders and confiscate firearms. My feeling on the statutory scheme right now is that most of what is in House Bill 1177, most of the mechanisms it provides for are already in the statutory scheme, but it does go a little bit further. And so I think that's how this topic came about.
Actually, there's a little more to that. I would just like to add to that. I was up in Denver 3 weeks ago after the legislative session. There is a state representative named Rod Pelton that just got elected this year. He's a previous commissioner from over on the Eastern Slope. Last year at this time, there was almost 850 bills that had already went through our state legislature and state senate. At this time, there's less than 400. He has a theory, and we'll see if it comes true or not. He believes that there's 300 bills that are going to come and be proposed in April. And he believes in that 300 bills, so there might be up to 50 gun bills tied to that. And then what that would do is that would put a scramble, because the legislative session is over the first part of May. And so this red flag bill is just one of possibly 50 that are going to be proposed at the very last minute up at the state capitol.
So I'll read it. I titled it "Infringement upon the Constitutional Right to Keep and Bear Arms." Whereas both the Colorado Constitution, Article 2, Bill of Rights, Section 13, and the United States Constitution, Amendment 2, protect the individual right to bear arms. And whereas both the Colorado Constitution, Article 2, Bill of Rights, Section 25, and the United States Constitution, 14th Amendment, protect the individual right to due process of law. And whereas the Montezuma County Board of Commissioners are elected to represent the people of Montezuma County and are duly sworn by their oath to uphold both the constitutions of Colorado and the United States. And whereas the people of Montezuma County, Colorado assert these individual civil rights as their inalienable right to bear arms in defense of person, home, or property. Whereas the people of Montezuma County derive economic benefit from lawful hunting, recreation, and shooting conducted within Montezuma County, Colorado, allowable under Colorado and United States constitutions. And whereas this resolution is in the best interest of the health, safety, order, prosperity, and the welfare of the citizens of Montezuma County. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of Montezuma County, Colorado, that Montezuma County, Colorado opposes enactment of legislation that infringes upon the people's constitutional rights to keep and bear arms, and considers such laws to be unconstitutional and beyond the lawful legislative authority. The clerk and recorder of Montezuma County should deliver this resolution to the Colorado General Assembly and to the office of the governor. Montezuma County will protect individual civil rights and not violate the constitutional rights of the people.
Thank you, John. Anything else, Commissioners, before we open it to public comment? We'd like to keep this as orderly as possible. So if you're going to come and speak to the Commissioners, we're going to have you come to this podium right over here on my left, your right. So if you wish to speak, if you're in the front rows, please come right down. If you're in the back rows, if you'll circle around and come down the right-hand side of the room here. So go right ahead.
Good morning, Board of Commissioners. My name is Tom Seymour, County Road S.6, 81323. I'd just like to thank you, gentlemen, for being as transparent as you are these first 56 days of this year. You really represented yourselves well, and what all of these people have asked for is transparency, and you have lived up to that. I like your measured demeanor that you have, that you take your time before you vote, and you think about it, and you listen to the folks, whether they're liberals, conservatives, unaffiliated, independent, Republican, Democrat, it doesn't matter. You have done a very admirable job already this year. The second thing is that I made a mistake in a post I made. I called this a public hearing. Nobody else read it, but a couple of my friends. And but this is not a public hearing. This is public comments, as you said. My comment is that I fully support this resolution. The reason for that is I don't feel we need any other attempt to limit our civil liberties, to take away our constitutional rights, and I don't believe it's necessary that we have a so-called red flag legislation when there are already laws on the book. We have laws that are enforced by the county sheriff that if you commit an act of domestic violence, your weapons are taken away. If you are hospitalized because you are mentally ill, your guns are secured within your family. I think that the laws that we have on the books are sufficient, and that this is just an encroachment on our Second Amendment rights. And I hope that this resolution, although I understand it's not law, it's just your representing our wishes, you are representing a lot of the wishes of our people by writing this resolution. I'm glad it's in draft form today, so if there's any letters that you receive after today, you may amend that resolution that Mr. Baxter has written up. So I just want to thank each of you for doing your job and representing us and allowing all these people to talk. It's not common in our county for such transparency. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
MB McAfee, 22277 and County Road 20. And I would like to suggest that a little bit more transparency could have been achieved and could still be achieved today if a copy of this resolution could be handed out to everyone. You obviously have it. It seems like you could make a hard copy and you could hand that out to everyone. When it's split up on the screen, it's not so easy to read, in my opinion. So I think you haven't really gone fully as transparent as I think you could. So I think right now, today, you could make a big stack of copies and you could hand it out. And you could do it with draft. I know you can write the word draft on it so that everyone will understand it's not the final resolution. I think that's sort of a fair thing to do. And that's what I would ask you to do today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Greg Kemp, Road 35, Mangus. Once again, I want to thank the commissioners for...
Greg, could you stay a little closer to the microphone so everybody can hear you? Thanks.
I wanted to thank the commissioners for allowing all of these folks to have an opportunity to make a comment. I have to admit that I have a certain bias because I lost a close relative to a random shooting 6 years ago. And so I am more cognizant than many people about common sense gun legislation. I'd like to read a brief item that's history. Robert Whitehill a delegate from Pennsylvania, proposed a number of amendments to the Constitution that many historians believe were used by James Madison as a guide for his own text. One of them was a right to bear arms. Quote, "The people have a right to bear arms for the defense of themselves and their own state or the United States, or for the purpose of killing game, and no law shall be passed for disarming the people or any of them unless for crimes committed or real danger of public injury from individuals." After numerous drafts, James Madison simplified the language. So my point is that this issue has been discussed for 230 years and we haven't figured it out yet. In the state of Oregon, there has been what's called an extreme risk protection order, like this House Bill 1177 for 3 years. A survey that was done last year found of gun-owning families found that almost 80% of them were still in favor of this law. And my understanding is that it has been utilized in 3 years 73 times in the entire state of Oregon. So it's not common.
Gregor, we appreciate that, but you're out of time, so thank you very much.
Well, I have one more statement, one more quick comment. In the first weekend in April, there is going to be a conference in Denver that coincides with the 20th anniversary of the Columbine shooting. Many common sense gun rights organizations are going to be there. If the commissioners were there and met a few dozen people who have survived mass shootings, who have survived domestic violence, and have are relatives of people who have committed suicide, your attitude toward this issue might change.
Thank you, Greg.
My name is Mary Dodd. I live at 1324 Melrose Street in Cortez. Mr. Kemp talked about extreme risk protection orders, and they have been shown to save lives. A majority of constitutional scholars, including Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia, agree that reasonable restrictions on categories of people, and those would include felons and people with mental health challenges, are permitted under and are not in conflict with Second Amendment rights. But my primary objection to the designation of Montezuma County as a gun sanctuary or a Second Amendment sanctuary is that we are a county of laws, a country of laws, in choosing to obey only those laws that we agree with and to ignore or circumvent laws that we don't like violates the principles upon which our country is founded. There are processes by which regulations and laws can be overturned, and these do not include individual choice. And there's one other point about extreme risk protection orders. The new bill that's proposed, House Bill 1177, does improve on previous bills in that it does give a person against whom an extreme risk protection order might be filed right to legal representation, and that's a big improvement, so that their constitutional rights could also be protected under the law. Thank you.
Thank you.
Eddie Kaiser, Road to Bell Point 4, Loop, Mancus. I support you guys in this resolution or draft, whatever you're choosing to call it. We, as a county, do not have an entire bunch of gun crimes going on here. We never have had. Even when the country was first settled, there were skirmishes with the natives. But I don't think that someone in here can get my name, get mad at me, call the sheriff and tell them I'm a risk so they come and take my guns. Yes, I can get my guns back when I prove they were wrong, but how much money is that going to cost me? With attorney fees, missed court dates. I support you, gentlemen. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. You can come line up if you want.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for allowing us to speak here today. It's great to see you all here.
Yeah, if you could get that microphone a little bit closer to you, it'll bend it up. It's movable.
Dawn Brunson, Road 34, Mancus. Please make Montezuma a gun sanctuary county. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in favor for the commissioners bringing forth a resolution and accepting it to make Montezuma County a gun sanctuary county. As I write this, there are currently 15 counties in New Mexico that are currently in the process or have passed similar resolutions. I encourage Montezuma County to join them. The red flag bill, HB 19-1177, currently sitting on the governor's desk, waiting for his signature, which he has indicated he will do it once it gets there for his approval, is an affront to the Colorado citizens' Second and Fourth Amendment rights. This law, as it is currently written, is not only does it eliminate due process, and the rule of law. It only impacts the law-abiding citizen and does nothing to help the mentally ill, protect us from the mentally ill, or take guns away from criminals. This bill will put our law enforcement officers at extreme risk. The red flag bill will cause our local law officers to use county resources to infringe upon our right to bear arms. This Gun Sanctuary Resolution will protect our law enforcement officers, law-abiding citizens, and our Second Amendment rights here in Montezuma County. Since the legislators in Denver clearly have an agenda to remove the freedoms and rights from the people of Colorado, you, my friends and neighbors, the elected county officials are our last defense. Thank you so much for serving. I appreciate it. It is not easy, and I do appreciate you all serving for our county. Thank you all for what you do in defending our freedom.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, good morning. My name is Carolyn Landis. I'm a Colorado native and I've resided continuously in Montezuma County since 1989. Both of my daughters and their families have settled here too, and I have 7 grandchildren, and I'm very blessed and grateful to be here. I recognize responsible gun ownership as part of the local heritage and the toolkit. We've all got our differences, politics and religion and all of that. But people here are, for the most part, good citizens. We can see that in this room today. And good neighbors. We tend to take care of each other no matter what color of political flag or other type of flag we may be flying. I wanted to let you know that I am also a member of the Montezuma County chapter of Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. It's a national organization which was started by one housewife on the day after the Sandy Hook Elementary School shootings in December of 2012. Our local group here in Montezuma County formed in March of 2018 following the fatal shootings at Aztec, New Mexico High School and Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. We are part of a growing national movement of American people who want to do something to help end the gun violence epidemic in our country. Moms Demand Action is part of Every Town for Gun Safety, which is the largest gun violence protection organization in America with more than 5 million supporters, and it's growing daily. We know there is no one simple answer to the problem of gun violence in America. Here I am again. To me, it's like a huge jigsaw puzzle. It's got like 1 million pieces, and they often look the same, and they just don't fit together. But after much patience and communication and adjusting a viewpoint, seeing things in a different light, that's what's needed, I think, to solve it. Legislation such as the universal background checks and the extreme risk protection orders are very crucial pieces of this puzzle. More Americans every day are in agreement about that. In Colorado, where we're no stranger to mass tragedies that are fueled by gun violence, we've been able to make some really good progress in this area. People have mentioned that today. This has happened over the last few years, but much more is needed. I'm getting some flashy feedback here.
Might move it just a little bit in front of your mouth, maybe twist that up just a little so it's not
like
so
that?
forward.
Okay.
There you go.
Thanks.
Give me an extra 5 seconds, but you're really
Okay, I want to share a few of Moms Demand Action in Every Town's goals. Please pay special attention to the last one because it may be something that you don't know about. One goal is to close the deadly loopholes in the background check system that allow dangerous people like felons and domestic abusers easy access to guns. Another is promote gun safety so that American children will no longer be exposed to unacceptable levels of risk. And the last one is that we want to mobilize popular support for policies that respect Second Amendment rights and protect people.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll turn these in. There's some questions on this.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time.
Hello, my name is Amanda Winter. My address is 17657 Road 20.
Could you pull that microphone?
Sorry.
There you go.
Okay. My name is Amanda Winter. My address is 17657 Road 27.7 in Dolores, Colorado. I think that we all have different reasons why we've been watching the legislation, and I've really been watching this red gun law. And my personal reason, and not just this, but one thing that really worries me about this is that this red gun law could target any of us. This bill could pave ways to make any of us guilty until proven innocent. And that's not what we were founded on. We were founded on being proven we're innocent until proven guilty. If someone wants to target you, they don't have to do much on much grounds other than to label you as a threat. My husband has served 1 year in Iraq and 1 year in Kuwait, and he is currently slotted for another year deployment coming up. In the past, I've heard about how veterans are high risk to people, or could be a high risk because of possible PTSD scenarios. So bills like this could be used to target our veterans. My husband took the same oath that a lot of people taking office have taken to protect and uphold the Constitution. My husband didn't serve in Iraq and survive in Iraq to have to come home and be put in danger because of upholding his beliefs or the oath he took. Also, there are a lot of people, I know a lot of people that go through bad divorces or whatnot, that someone could just label you, like one gentleman said, if they're angry with you or they want to take your rights away or make havoc in your life. All they'd have to do is simply label you. You know, we have things put in place for if someone goes through the process and is able to get a restraining order or whatnot, but this could be used to be very manipulated too. And I really appreciate you putting forth this resolution and letting some of us come and talk to you about it. And that's just my beliefs. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to speak. My name is Alan Mays. I live at 21693 County Road 21, Lewis, Colorado. Like many of you, I'm a resident of this county for all my life and my family is being here. I want to tell you that I do feel that you, as the county commissioners elected to the offices that you hold, are thinking about the citizens of this county. And so the simple bottom line is that I do support you in this resolution that you put forth. We don't need other rules coming down to erode our rights that we already have. And I agree that we do have laws already on the books that can be taken into account when situations occur. And I don't want to see anybody's guns taken away from them arbitrarily. And so just to finish up, legislators in Denver need to know that Montezuma County has citizens that are thoughtful and we are respectful of laws. So thank you very much for this resolution. My feeling is if you have the opportunity and have enough input today, that you go ahead and pass the resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you for this time. My name is Steve Blackwell. I'm a combat Purple Heart Marine as well as a 35-year veteran sheriff. And I can tell you right now that the Second Amendment has been under hammer for years and years and years, and has been since it was introduced. And a lot of people are going from the side of it that the Second Amendment isn't just so we can keep and bear arms and be able to shoot our neighbor's dog if it gets in our yard or take care of our neighbor if he creates a problem. The Second Amendment was designed and is keeping us free to be able to challenge our government, a tyrannical government, in the case we need to do that. It was also invented, and a lot of people never read the entire Second Amendment. They say it gives us the right to keep and bear arms, everybody. But we need to protect ourselves because we are no longer in the world I grew up in. I'm 71 years old, and I remember back in high school, we could carry guns, we could do everything out there where I grew up, and nobody got a problem. But we're in a problem era right now. Our world is in a trend of terrorists. They're in a world of uneasiness. Look what's going on in Venezuela and all these other countries. They're all moving here. And why? Because we have the right to stay free. We don't want a socialist government. We have the right to stay free, and the only way you're going to go, you don't take a knife to a gunfight. And everybody else out there has got guns. And so the guns are just a tool that we use to protect ourselves and to keep our rights free.
Right.
And without them, we're going to be like Venezuela. We're going to be migrating to Mexico. We're going to be doing something different because it won't be a fun place to live. And I thank you guys very, very much. It's even sad to see that we have to go through this. The Constitution gives us the right, that should be all. But now we got to keep hitting all these little outside things and try to protect ourselves. But I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak in front of you. Thank you very much, and I hope this goes through.
Good morning, guys, and Dean Cunningham, 614 North Washington Street, Cortez, Colorado. I just want to come up and say also that we have to support this bill, and I'm just so thankful that you are giving us this opportunity to come up and say our piece. This legislation in Denver is just a stepping stone, folks, and we need to all understand that then the next Congress that they have, they're going to add some more things, and they're going to add some more things. And I don't need to have, I don't want to have to look across the street and say, oh, that guy over there is sick, so I'm going to go to the judge and I'm going to get him, his guns pulled away from him. We can't, because it's just going to go from here, another step further, and another step further. So I thank you guys, and I agree that I think if you guys can vote on this as soon as you can, we need to let the people in Denver know that Montezuma County is going to be a Second Amendment sanctuary city, because we deserve the rights. It's there for us. It doesn't need to be trampled on anymore. Thank you very much.
My name is Robert Smith. Of course, my nickname is Butch, for those of you who know me. And I live at 20675 County Road 20, right here in Lewis. And I wrote this little thing last night. It just county came to me, to the county commissioners. It says, as a citizen and homeowner in this county, I earnestly implore you to vote yes on making Montezuma County a Second Amendment sanctuary county. As the founding fathers realized the necessity of individuals having the right to own guns, not only to protect themselves and their families from oppression from the government, as our state legislature is attempting, but also as an individual right to self-protection. To pass any legislation restricting this right is an express violation of the Bill of Rights. The said Bill of Rights and amendments to the Constitution were written with the express purpose of protecting the American people. Please give the people of Montezuma County the full protection of the Second Amendment. Now, I wrote this last night just so I could remember to say it. And I stopped by John Deere out here, but my son wanted to sign the back of it. Before I could get out, there's 12 more signatures on it. If you had had this at any other time than working time, we couldn't have enough room in this building to bring all the people in. We want to really thank you for standing up for the people of Montezuma County. We trust you, and everything that you're doing will be for our benefit. We look at you and we thank God for the men that we put in place here. I want to thank each one of you.
Good morning. My name is Rebecca Busick, and I wrote 26 Dolores. I'm just going to read what I wrote. I come from a family of gun owners.
I'm also a gun owner. My father, in his own words, has guns that could kill everything from a mouse to an elephant. He's a lifelong hunter from a family of hunters. Whenever the conversation of stricter gun laws comes up, he always says, if you have a problem with gun restrictions, maybe it's because you shouldn't have a gun. We have another very close family member who will remain unnamed for privacy reasons. When she was 21, young and impulsive, she attempted suicide by a combination of pills and alcohol. As a result, she spent a brief period in a mental health facility. Some years later, she bought a gun, a pink pistol, for protection. Though she is now 38 and has lived a relatively normal life, aside from a couple of infractions with the law, I don't think she should be able to own a gun. I would hope that if once she again makes threats or insinuations that she would take her own life, the people around her would be able to take her gun away. As many of us know, a suicide attempt with a gun is generally successful. What she needs is counseling, not a gun. This is a bill designed to save lives. Though some in this room may want to call the law unconstitutional, that is not so. It is in line with the Supreme Court decision, the District of Columbia v. Heller, in which the court made it clear that responsible restrictions on categories of people, including those struggling with mental illness, are permissible under the Second Amendment. It stated that the right to bear arms is not unlimited, and shall be regulated. I cannot believe anyone in this room would believe that someone who is a threat to themselves or someone else should be able to carry a lethal weapon. I hear all the time how mental health is a problem, not guns. It's not so simple as just that. People who have histories of mental health problems are, at times, still able to obtain guns in this country. Until our mental health policies and gun laws are addressed and adequate to protect people from themselves and others who may be struggling with mental illness, we need to be able to rely on each other to be the eyes and ears our government cannot. Thank you.
Good morning, gentlemen. Morning, Mr. Hotel. My name is Mike Marston. I reside at 1201 Northeast in Cortez, Colorado. Firstly, thank you for this. Very well made. This room has some memories for me. I spent 30 years coming in here testifying against crime. You can't stop it, but people can defend themselves against a criminal act. They have to have that defense. As far as suicides and that kind of stuff, you can't stop those either. If they haven't got a gun, they're going to use a rope. They'll take pills. People have a right to defend themselves. That's basically all I had to say.
Thank you. If we've got all, okay.
Isn't Dylan, This Colorado? I just wanted to say I support you gentlemen in your endeavor to do this resolution. I'm a mother of 3 adult children, and I'm a grandma, and we all as a family enjoy target shooting, and some of us hunt, and we enjoy this beautiful state of Colorado. That's one of the main reasons. My son was in 4-H shooting sports at 10 years old, so he could learn about gun safety at an early age. And my personal view is that I worry about the slow trickle of our rights being taken away at a slow rate. And I feel like that some of these things aren't about safety, they're about removing the ability for people to own firearms in general. So thank you, and I appreciate you guys listening and looking into this matter deeply. Thanks.
My name is Richard Kipp. I live on 16 Road at Pleasant View, and I totally support your effort to keep us safe. Man has been killing man since time began. He's used rocks, he's used clubs, he's used spears, bows and arrows. And to try to blame it on the weapon
is pretty slow-minded. To try to take the gun away, the gun is the best self-defense weapon the honest citizen has. And to pass a law that only affects the honest citizen, because people who don't obey the law, it makes no difference what law you pass. It won't affect them. They will find a way. The only people affected is the honest citizen. So anybody who thinks doing away with guns will do away with man killing man is in a dream world. You can get on the internet and find out how to make explosives. What would happen if somebody walks into a classroom and throws a homemade bomb in the middle of the class? They'll be lucky that they're using a gun instead of some other methods. And the best way to put a target on yourself is to become indefensible. These things only happen in places where there are no defense. So anytime we take the defense away, all we're doing is opening up the world for the nitwit to come in and start killing people. These people are crazy, but they're not totally stupid. If you have defense, they stay away. And I really appreciate what you're doing here. And I hope you all the success in the world. Thank you.
Sheriff Nowlin, I see you're in the audience. Would you care to give a statement? I think probably the people here might like to hear what your stance on these issues are.
Well, it'll take more than 3 minutes.
Well, you know where
because I have a lot to say. I appreciate everybody. I wish that we had more involvement of our citizens in everything that goes on. But I'm really proud of everyone in this county, including you, Board of County Commissioners, and even County Attorney John Baxter. I appreciate it. Everything that you've done. And there's been a lot of talk, and the reason why you brought this up as far as this resolution stems from the beginning of House Bill 1177. And so it's really two issues, but I know exactly what's coming down the pipe. We're going to have more. We're going to have more. Everybody knows who I am, my past, my history. I'm a gun owner. I believe in the Second Amendment, our gun rights, and I believe in yours. And I also believe that if you don't want to have a gun, I'm there to protect that right too. It's okay. But this House bill is a civil matter that's trying to turn to a criminal matter. That's what it is. We've dealt with folks that have this same situation. I'm talking about mental health and disability, and the speakers that I've heard, this doesn't do anything to get them help. But we've taken care of this problem as a civil matter because it's a family matter. And that's how we protected people who have been at extreme risk. But I've also heard that if somebody wants to commit a crime or hurt themselves, you're not going to know about it. You never will. So this doesn't do anything. But what this bill does is it puts me, as your sheriff and every law enforcement officer in this state, between a rock and a hard spot and a vice. Okay? I will always support the Constitution of both the United States and the state of Colorado and our laws. But this I don't agree with. The problem is that if I choose, when I get a court order, as an officer of the court, I have to follow through with that order. If I don't, you know what's going to happen? I'm going to be in front of the judge on a show cause hearing and be found in contempt. I certainly hope that all of you will be there with me, okay? Because that's what's going on. I'm going to tell you right now that we as your sheriff's office are not going to request temporary protection orders, okay? Because that's temporary. There hasn't been a hearing, there hasn't been a finding or anything. And to ask us to take someone's personal property because of it is unconstitutional and unlawful as far as I'm concerned. And so that's where I stand with that. But if I get a court order after a hearing, okay, my first is going to be, how about the family? How about next of kin, neighbors, friends, okay? Taking care of that. The other thing, it says that I'm supposed to store these firearms. I don't have the location for that, and you all know that. We don't keep guns for safekeeping or any other property. The only thing that we hold is physical evidence in a crime. And these things that we've talked about and I've heard here, we have laws that we enforce, okay? And if you've committed a crime, has nothing to do with this. If you're using a gun or firearm in the commission of a crime, that is physical evidence. That's when we seize it. It's held as physical evidence. That's it, okay? We don't take your property. And I'm not going to be part of that. As far as this resolution, I just asked for a couple of additions where the first sentence it says right to bear arms. How about right to keep and bear arms, okay? But also, you as commissioners and myself, we also have an oath of office that we swore to. And besides upholding and supporting the Constitution of the United States and the state of Colorado, it also says, and the laws of the state of Colorado. You see where it puts us? You see where it puts me? It's not you, it's me. And it's tough. But I'm here. It's always been, Montezuma County, as far as I've been sheriff and others before me, has been a firearms protected county. It has. So long as it's used in a lawful manner, that's all. And so what I would ask is that if you pass this, which I'm sure you will, and I hope you do, I'd like to have a signature line below you somewhere so that I could sign it as well, because I agree with it. And I agree with protecting everybody's life and property as well. That's why you hired me, and that's what I'm going to do. Thank you.
Sheriff, just for your information, down under the be it resolved in our deal, it does say the right to keep and bear arms. So,
it does. Yeah.
Just for your clarification.
Commissioner Manager Craig Hart, Allen Sun Shooting 3858 Road G, Cortez. I think the issue here, I thank you for the resolution, Sheriff. Thank you very much for standing up. I get very emotional. Our Constitution is also my livelihood. Okay. And I think the key to this, above all else, is responsible gun ownership. I'm an instructor. A lot of you people in this room have been classes through me. Okay. And I think responsible gun ownership is the important part there. I'm required by the ATF, when I have my firearms license, to do and apply certain laws and regulations. You expect me to do that, just like you're expecting the sheriff to do that. The other firearms dealers in town, they're expected to do the same thing. And I'm going to do that. It's my responsibility, if I've got somebody come in that I'm questioning or not sure about, to make a decision right then whether I need to contact sheriff or send him in another direction. Same time, it's my responsibility as a firearms instructor to make sure that the people that do have concealed carry permits, when I give them that paperwork to the sheriff's department, that he is getting my agreement that I have taught them the laws and regulations of our community, so that he knows and that you know that they are being safe and responsible gun owners. I always make the comment in my concealed carry class that if you come in, everybody in this room expects the sheriff and every deputy and every police officer in this town to know what the laws are every year. That's a fair statement. But at the same time, I expect all of you to know what the laws are as far as concealed carry, so that I know that you're being a safe and responsible gun owner. Okay? It's my livelihood, so I completely buy into this. Okay? I appreciate one of the other stances the sheriff's had. He wants to show proficiency. So when we have people in this community that want to carry a gun, he has to sign off. He's putting his name on it. I'm putting my name on it. That you are responsible and you're proficient at that gun. A lot of you people in here have been through my concealed carry class. I've taught you, and I'm proud of that. I have one of the most comprehensive training classes in town. And I'm proud of the fact when you walk out of that door and you're going to be a safe gun owner. But at the same time, this resolution, it's scary for me as a business owner, because it's my livelihood. And if someone disagrees with what I'm teaching in the class, they can come and say, well, we just disagree with what he has to say. And they can come at me and my livelihood. And I'm doing everything right. And I want to do everything right. And I want to be a member of this community, responsible gun owner, and a business owner. And I care about all the other businesses in town. So I hope this resolution passes, and I stand with you. Sheriff, thank you for willing to sign on the bottom of that. I respect that, and I respect all of you, and thank you for your time.
Good morning. Tamara Hamilton from Road 33.75 in
Could
Memphis.
you pull that down a little bit more in front of you so people can hear you?
Is that better?
You can lower it down, just pull it right down, and from there you go.
There we go. I'm shorter than the last person. Shorter than most. So I'm going to urge you, please, to not adopt this resolution. And I came with my nifty written plan here, which in listening to many of my neighbors, now I kind of have to make a couple adjustments to. There seems to be a pretty widespread misconception that we already have extreme risk protection in place. And as in my position as supervised visitation coordinator, I got to see probably 30 different domestic violence protection orders over the course of the last 5 years. And out of those, only one had the box checked to remove weapons from that person. Most of those people followed the rules reasonably well, but one of them I see in the newspaper is going to prison for gun violence. We just had a newspaper report recently about suicide by gunshot that was discovered. And when a family member was hospitalized because he was suicidal, there was nothing and no one who was interested in the 17 weapons in his home. And I appreciate that Sheriff Nowlin doesn't want to be put at risk. I don't want to put him at risk either. But what I just heard is, I'm the person who needs to go be put at risk. The family member now needs to go confiscate all of those weapons. And you may not have a place to store them. I now have them under a bed. Is that a good place for them? It's not. And as I look at this room, most of the people in it are in the demographic that is at the highest risk of suicide by gunshot. Middle-aged white men. That's it. You got the highest risk of killing yourselves with a gun. And, you know, most people will get past that suicidal desire with a little help and with a little time. There's a couple of them, and yes, they'll go ahead and kill themselves and there's nothing they can do. But a lot of people do have warning signs and they do tell people around them. I don't want to take away your guns.
Ma'am, Ms. Hamilton, your time's up. We appreciate your comments.
Well, this is much more formal for
Okay, thank you.
My name's Travis. I'm from Memphis, Colorado.
What's your last name, Travis?
Measles.
Thank you.
When an innocent person dies, it's a tragedy. And when an innocent person is murdered, that's horrifying and it's evil. But that has nothing to do with a firearm. Baseball bat deaths are 4 and 5 to 1 over firearm deaths. And most firearm deaths in this country are gang related. We have so much information at our fingertips in this country, and so much of it is driven by fear and emotion or agenda. And we need to be able to look at what is the greatest good for the most people. And I know that there are many people that believe that taking a firearm away from a person who they deem constitutes a risk, that's the greatest good. But facts don't care. The facts are that more lives are saved every day by firearms than are taken. And the facts are that a bill like this one, you have it right in there, it reduces your right to due process. And I don't care if it's 10 people just watch somebody shoot somebody in the middle of the street, the person who pulled the trigger still gets due process. This removes another layer of due process. And that is one of the most sacred and important things in our country, the right to due process. That's what we ran away from in England. There was no due process going on. So this needs to be upheld. I support this statement by the commissioners. The greatest good is not always what feels the best. Sometimes it would feel good to say there's no more guns in the world and everybody's going to be peaceful and loving now. And that is, it's very sad, but it's just not true. You know, honestly, I'd rather be shot than get killed by a baseball bat. And that's what would happen if you don't have a firearm and you're put in front of an evil person. So I support the Second Amendment for deep philosophical reasons, not simply because I like guns. It has nothing to do with it. The firearm is the greatest defender of human life ever invented by mankind. And it can be, that's borne out by statistics ever since the firearm was invented. We are losing fewer people in combat operations because of firearms. Sorry.
No, thank you very much. Just wanted to make sure you're...
My name is Dwayne Calhoun. I live at 22699 Route D6, south of Cortez. Thank you guys for letting us have the comments to talk to you. I love all the comments these people are talking about. I support this. I hope you guys pass it. I wish this could have been held at 6 o'clock tonight instead of 8:30 this morning. Maybe in future ones we can hold them where more working people can come to it. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
My name's Ernie Williams. My wife and I, Kate, live on 16 Road, Pleasant View, Colorado. We support you folks 100% on this issue, this bill. I lived in Arizona for 55 years, Pinal County. I've seen the devastation of not following the Constitution and the laws on the books. Guns don't kill people, people kill people. And if they want to do it, they're going to find a way. We live in a world that's completely different from where I was raised. And I'd like to compliment the sheriff because he hit the nail on the head. It's going to put a lot of our officers in way out it's just not right. So hang in there, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Danny Wilkin, 11728 Highway 491. I would just like to take and thank you, Commissioners, for stepping forward with this resolution. I support it. There's a lot of members in this community, and there's a lot of members, or a lot of people in the state of Colorado that support this resolution. And we thank you for taking a look at these, at this. Today is day 60 in the state legislature. There's 60 days to go in the state legislature. From the very beginning of this legislative session, we have seen our freedoms and our liberties and our rights diminished and stuff. Everything that continues to come before, whether it's this bill, which has a lot of problems to it. So many people have said taking away guns is not going to stop the criminal or the law, or the criminal or the person that doesn't abide by the law. That's exactly right. And there should be due process. You shouldn't be able to take and lose your gun just because you was accused of something or somebody has a vendetta against you. You know, I don't know why the state legislature lives in this make-believe land. You know, I think that for the next 60 days, all of our rights and freedoms are under attack and going to be. And I really thank you guys for coming forward with this. I thank everybody that came out today in support of you guys, because it's not just this. There's a lot of different things that we need our county and our city governments looking out for, because our rights continue to be eroded on the federal level and they continue to be eroded on the state level. And in all honesty, it takes all of you guys to help all of them to show support for our rights, because when it comes down to it, our rights are only going to be protected at the local level, and we are going to have to be able to fight back and have people show up and say, you know what, this is not right, this is not what we want. And you know, we're law-abiding citizens, and we don't think we should have our rights stripped away for some false protection that the legislatures in Denver think that they can pass. So thank you very much.
Anybody else care to address us this morning? Bob?
Good morning. Bob Clayton, 11863 Road, 27.3. You know, I'm sitting out here listening to pro and con comments, and it just brings a thought to mind. You know, throughout our great country, we have sanctuaries that have been formed in cities and towns and states that protect illegal immigrants, but more importantly, criminal illegal immigrants. And here our county, which I thank you for, because I support this 100%, is creating a sanctuary that actually protects law-abiding citizens.
Here, here.
Which to me is
Anybody else? Before we have a repeat? Wade?
Wade Foster, 25314 County Road T, Dolores. I come from a gun culture. I can't imagine not having guns in my house and access to them. Also, I understand we may be a little too well armed in this country, and there's an awful lot of gun violence, and I don't know the answer to that. I came down here prepared to oppose this, and as I'm reading it, because this is what I thought I heard, I thought you guys were setting us up to become lawbreakers by ignoring or subverting legislation enacted by our elected representatives. As I read this now, I don't see Sanctuary County. I'm not too sure what point 3 means. But if we're talking about creating a resolution, sending it to the
General Assembly and the officer of the governor in a legal manner, following procedure, I can support that. We talked about the slippery slope of gun laws. I know it's a concern to everybody. We are a nation, a state, and a county of laws, and if we put ourselves in the position of refusing to enforce our state laws, that is also a slippery slope that who knows where that will lead. I do not support ignoring state legislation. I understand the sheriff has an oath to uphold. I'm proud of him for saying he will uphold it. But as far as sending a resolution to the Assembly, I have to support that. And thank you guys for your efforts in dealing with this problem.
Thanks. You're next. Nobody else is coming yet.
Emily McAfee, 2277, I always say my address a little bit wrong, Road 20 in Lewis. I think it's great that everybody's turned out. I appreciate everyone's comments. I really, look at this full room. I hadn't actually turned around and looked. So I think this is pretty awesome. And I think it's good that you let everybody talk, absolutely. But I think this county could do locally for the best protection, or one part of good protection for our citizens, is let's hear from mental health, from the biggest mental health provider in our county, learn about what there is to support mental wellness or to support mental health or address mental, address mental illness. So one thing that you could do, and I want to ask you to do this, I've asked you before, but I would really like to see some action, is to ask Byrne Heath from Access to come and talk to you about all the services that Access has. Learn about what the mental health services are in our county. That's one way to protect the issues that are trying to be addressed by House Bill 1177. Because mental illness and mental health issues are often what cause gun violence. So getting at the more root of things, to me, makes good sense. So I would ask you to really consider hearing from the mental health community here about how robust or not robust their services are. It's just a way to add some protection. People are very fearful about somehow their protection being taken away. Well, let's learn about what other kinds of protection there are, protective factors for citizens in our county. And I think you all could do that. You hear from the hospital quarterly, hear from the mental health services quarterly, would be my suggestion. I am happy to see that the word sanctuary is not in this resolution, though I know that you, in your discussion after we're through, you might change that. I don't know what you're going to do. But I'm glad to see the word resolution is not in this, and I appreciate, gosh, Sheriff Nowlan, I really appreciate the tough spot that it puts law enforcement in. I get that, and I appreciate it. I don't know what the answer is, and now I'm done.
Thank you. We're only going to do a couple of repeats, I'm here to tell you.
Well,
we've had two.
My real name is Dr. Tom Seymour from S.6 in Dolores. I was the lead psychologist for Access Mental Health before I retired. And then I went to work for the district attorney as the chief investigator. I found that the district attorney's office did more to deal with mentally ill people than Access Health did. And I can assure you that MD McAfee, who just spoke to you, was on the board of Access Mental Health for years. She and I worked together in a collaborative manner to redirect Access Mental Health to provide more services for this county. This Board of Commissioners and other people contributed a lot of money to the inpatient unit in Durango called Crossroads. Access continues to not accept residents from this county because they're just such shortage of rooms and shortage of doctors and shortage of money and all that. And yet they get hundreds of thousands of dollars every year to provide us with mental health. They fail to do that. Byrne Heath, sitting in this chair, would be an excellent idea so that the commissioners can duly question him that he's a fraud, which is why I resigned and moved on. I thank every one of you, Rebecca, Mary, all of you for speaking your mind about mental health issues in the Constitution. I respect Mr. Blackwell, Mr. Marsden, all of you, Ms. Winters, Danny, Wilkins. Everything you said is accurate. But like the gentleman said about this is just a way of taking away the rights of good people. I would love to see mental health stronger here, but it's not going to come from the hands of Access folks. So you've heard a lot of people in repeat here today, and I appreciate it again. Thanks for letting Mary Beth, MB and I talk. MB and I are old people that work to make Access better. And you know what they did to MB? They fired her from the board. You know what they did to me? They demoted me for taking up the same issues that MB had. That's not right when your mental health agency fights against legitimate citizens on their board and their lead psychologist. So I don't have anything else to say about Access. Oh, yes, I do.
Again, I'm Robert Smith. And I live right down the road from MB. I know her pretty well. This mental health issue, and like Commissioner Sukla was saying, the biggest problem that I see is more and more and more coming down from our legislature trying to infringe upon our rights. Now they're talking about mental health, and that's the issue that comes into my mind, because like Mrs. Winter's husband, I'm a veteran. I'm a Vietnam veteran, United States Marine Corps, I'm proud of it. But according to what we've heard, and you can look it online, it's in our federal government, it's everywhere, hey, I'm a risk to every one of you because I'm a veteran. And if they continue down the line they're doing right now, it's only a matter of time that every veteran will have his guns taken away because he is at risk. Because he may have PST. He may be a little bit off in his head because he doesn't like what you're doing. Okay, let's not let this resolution get so far down the road that those who were willing to give their lives to defend our country are now at risk because somebody may not like what we did, or somebody may not support what we did. We have a right in this country to freedom, and the freedom to own these guns is one of them. It's guaranteed by the Second Amendment of the Constitution. Why would they feel that they need to take away the guns from those that they deem as unfit? I really support what you guys are doing. You guys are just amazing. What you've done here just makes me feel so proud to be a part of this community. Thank you.
I'll make it quick.
I'm Steve Blackwell again, and one of the major problems I can identify with in the long term is we put mental health in the same bucket of gun ownership when they're two totally different subjects. I can tell you right now, and I'll admit it, but I'll deny it once I leave this room. I'm 100% PTSD, 100%. And when I got back out of the Marine Corps, I became a cop for 35 years. Never shot anybody by accident. Shot a few by purpose, but never shot anybody by accident. And not only did I serve this country, but I served my cities that I worked in, the counties that I worked in, and the whole 9 yards. I got a bullet hole right here, right in my head. Still in there, you want to hear it? That's another story, we'll get to that later. But the object being is, mental health can cover an elastic clause that will cover this country. Mental health can be everything from the guy that runs his car into a crowd to somebody who steals a candy bar from Walmart. So to put them in the same bucket is really not fair to both the mental health issues as well as the gun issues. Granted, some guy that walks into a school and shoots a bunch of kids is flat crazy and has a mental problem. But what about the guy that protected his wife and his children from somebody coming in his front door with a firearm? Has he got a mental problem too? Because he just killed somebody? No. And we've got to learn that these issues are different. They're different like when I was in Vietnam. I killed 26 people. Does that make me a murderer? No. Okay, I did my job. Do I have mental illness? Some of you in here will probably say yes. But the object being is we've got to learn to take these issues differently. We can't just say everybody with a firearm that shoots somebody or does something has a mental issue. Because it's not fair. And it's not fair to especially us veterans who have gone over there, and I'm 210% disabled as far as the VA is concerned. Does that make me a total nutcase? Possibly. But does it make me a mental issue? No. I spent 35 years saving people. I don't think it does. Thank you.
I rest my case.
Thanks for your service.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Robert Ower, and I live at 26223 County Road M here in Cortez. And I want to support what you're doing because I think it's really important for the Front Range to understand that we don't agree with a lot of the things that we do, that they're doing.
Yes.
Right now, they're pretty much running roughshod over a lot of things that are important to us. And I think it's important for the people to understand that this 1177 is just one of the things that they've got going on. They just recently voted, and I'm not exactly sure where this bill stands. I know it was voted, I think it got voted for in the House. And this bill said that if we, the people of Colorado, vote for the wrong person for president, they will change our vote and vote for the person who got the most of the popular vote. Now, don't think for a minute that they don't really understand what that means, because they're pretty smart over there. They're just circumventing the process. The popular vote means nothing. It shouldn't even be discussed when we're talking about how the states of these United States vote for our president. We are a republic. And what they understand, and they try to act like they don't, is that the only way our little old vote counts out here, my vote, is as the state. And when I tell the state how I want the state to vote for the president, that's what they need to do. And they're saying that they don't have to. They're saying that they're going to go and see what the popular vote said, and that's how they're going to vote, unless it agrees with the way that they already think. But that leaves us out of the equation out here in the hinterland, because we don't vote the way Boulder does. So you need to understand that this same bill that they're talking about right now with firearms is coming from the same group of people that does not care what our vote is. And our vote needs to matter. When we lose that, we lose another big part of our Constitution. That's all I got to say about that. I'm a little bit fired up about it. Maybe I need to come and take my guns from it. Because as one man said over here, one of the things that they've forgotten about when they talk about what the Second Amendment is about, it is about protecting us from a bad government.
Right.
And the people that came here from England understood that.
That's right.
Thank you.
Just one last quick statement to kind of go off of what we just spoke about, the Electoral College and the vote. And he said about the popular vote, but it's not the popular vote of Colorado. It's our electoral votes will be taken and handed over to the candidate who won the popular vote in the whole United States of America. It doesn't have anything to do with about Colorado. So this, just like this bill and the resolution that these guys are proposing against this bill, we need to have the same type of resolution. I would ask the commissioners to put the same type of resolution forward to go to the state legislature and the governor about not to take our electoral right, our electoral votes away, because it does. It takes and wipes out our vote. When Colorado has 9 electoral votes, when the way this bill that's going through, and it's on the governor's desk right now, it may be signed today. The way this is going through is that when there gets to be 270 electoral votes signed on it with states, that's when this will all kick in. And at that time, it really won't matter how Coloradans vote or who they choose for, because our electoral votes will go to who was elected from the cities, from New York, from California, from Florida, all of the big electoral vote holders in this country. That's it.
Danny, we need to get back on task here. I understand the appreciate the comments, but we're here to talk about this resolution that we're dealing with today. So anybody else that wishes to address us, please keep it specific to this resolution.
We don't know a whole lot, but I do know that
Could
my
you
family...
give us your name and your address, please?
Oh, sorry. I'm Donna Malcolm, Row 34. My family has been gun owners since I can remember. My dad taught us how to learn about firearms and that kind of thing. I agree totally with the sheriff. And I want to thank you guys for what you're doing, and I hope this passes here. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Thank you. I got one more thing I'd like to add on guns. When Colorado had its first school shooting, it was terrible. But it turned a light on to our incompetent leaders in Washington, D.C. The first thing I would have did, I would have asked the Congress to tax levy a half cent or 1 cent to everything the American people buy. 1 carrot, 1 onion, doesn't matter. We'd have went to closed campuses with security for all of our public schools. And nobody in this country would have fought that to protect our kids. Thank you.
Is there anybody else?
George Devers, 20490 County Road U, Cortez, Colorado. Just some numbers for you, in case you don't know, I am the county coroner. Get that right. Last year, we had 13 suicides in Montezuma County. 9 of them were from firearms. Not one person that committed suicide last year was flagged as having mental health issues. We had 1 of them that was a motor vehicle accident. We had 1 overdose and 2 hangings. So none of those people were flagged as having mental health issues. The people that I have had in the past that have committed suicide that has not even been flagged with mental health, that has talked about it in the past with Axis or with any of the physicians, they're usually an overdose or a hanging. The people that use firearms, nobody has any idea. Most suicides, people that actually go through it, that nobody has any clue that it's coming along. A lot of people say somebody else did it. My family member never would have done that. They're happy, they're having a grandkid, whatever it might be. Some of them are terminally ill. But, and last year for homicides, we had 2 homicides in Montezuma County. One person was a convicted felon, used a firearm, shouldn't have had a gun, it wasn't his gun. This wouldn't help a thing there either. The other person was trauma related, that's still ongoing, so not gonna go any further with that one. I only have last year's stats in my head right now. If I would have had more time, I could have pulled up a lot more, but nothing's different. There's not anything that's gonna change. So if you take people's firearms because they're mentally ill, I'm not sure what they're gonna classify as being mentally ill. I haven't had a mentally ill person commit suicide. But that's just Montezuma County. But I agree with what you guys are doing. I support it, and thank you.
Anybody else?
Commissioners, I'd like to read in the
Yes,
names of
yes,
the people.
our county clerk has some correspondences of letters that we received that will be a part of our record of this today.
So these all came to me by email, and they requested that they be part of the official record. From John, Jane, Liam Hopkins, Dexter Gill, Larry Purcell, Adi Schoenemeyer, Casey Hammerschlag, Bud Garner, Michelle Hagman, Sue Gilbert, Greg South, Jody Henley, Kathleen Stemler, Dean Cunningham, Valerie and Alan Mayes, Mark Brunson, Lakita Boren, Donna Malcolm, and I think it's Montana Rogers, Ron and Kathy Sarabia. You said that one. Oh. Anyways. I'll go through you said. Jim Malcolm, Kim and Doug Maxwell, and Jeremy Nowak. If you guys want me to put any of your letters, if you'll leave them on the table, I'll make sure that they're included in the official record.
Okay, we heard from everybody that wishes to speak this morning. Okay, we'll now close this public comment session. And I don't know if it's appropriate or not. Do the commissioners want to have any discussion regarding what comments have come to us today?
Yes, I would. I asked our attorney to go ahead and add a signature line for the sheriff, Mr. Nallen. I do appreciate that, sir. And you know, after hearing this, all of the comments that are here, and I really appreciate it, because we can only do our job effectively if you guys really come here and let us know what's going on. Through the weekend, I attended chili supper out at the community center at Lewis Areola, and they had, gosh, the room was packed and tons of people come to talk to me about this House Bill 1911-77 and what basically we were doing for this resolution. My first thought was initially to let it go for another week or 2 weeks, but after what we're seeing here today, the overwhelming support of what we're trying to do to let the legislative people up in Denver know how we feel down here and that we are being infringed upon, I don't think I have that same thought anymore. So I'll go ahead and let you guys speak.
Mr. Silva?
Well, I've read all the letters. I've talked to dozens of people on the phone. I've conversed with people over social media. I tell you, I believe, and I've said this from the beginning, that I don't work for the government. You guys are my boss, and I work for you. I have been shunned over that, saying, well, once you become a government official, you abide by what, you guys are my boss, and I want to do what I think is best for you, for my family, and the veterans. I can tell you what, if I was in a position of power, there wouldn't be one veteran that was homeless, period. I'm ready to vote. I think that if it says keep and bear arms in both places, like the sheriff said, would be, that should be there. And I also think we should change it on the recommendations of MB McAfee, and we should add the word sanctuary to the resolution.
Yeah, John?
So the reason I didn't put it in was really, I think, Sheriff Allen. So the reason I didn't put the word sanctuary in is because I didn't feel like you all had the authority to make Sheriff Nowlin enforce or not enforce. And you know, I appreciate Sheriff Nowlin's comments, and I think what I heard was that you know he was going to be between a rock and a hard place, and you know I don't know that you know if we're asking Sheriff Nowlin to sign this thing, then we are putting him in a position saying you will not enforce what the law is. And so, I mean, I'd like to hear Sheriff Nowlin's comments on that. I think there was at least, I think Mr. Foster was it, you know, had a similar concern. So, you know, I don't have a problem putting it in there. You guys put it in there if you want, but it might create a situation that Sheriff Nowlin might not want to sign it. So I don't know what your position would be there. And it also might create a situation where if in fact our sheriff, you know, is stating I'm not enforcing this law and isn't enforcing the law, you know, it might lead to more litigation. You know, not necessarily problems, just something to consider. So right now it's really a political statement. It's an assertion saying don't do this. We don't feel that it's constitutional and fair. You know, I think if Sheriff Nowlin agrees to direct all of his deputies to not enforce the law, then you know I think you can add that and have him sign off on it. You know, you're still not controlling Nankus Marshall, Cortez City of Police. So you know, it's a county thing, but I do feel like we would need the sheriff's endorsement or position on that.
I guess I need to know how sanctuary changes the genre of what we're stating. What legal ramifications does the word sanctuary bring with it?
I think you're telling the citizens that law, I think what you're doing is telling the citizens or people in Montezuma County, whether they're citizens or not, that law will not be enforced when and if it's passed.
That's right. By using the word sanctuary, that means that we're putting ourselves outside of that regulation. You understand that the same way, Sheriff Nowlin?
Yeah, I do. Can I come up?
Yeah, please do.
John brings a good insight to that, and I agree as far as adding sanctuary just because of that. But it's not saying that House Bill 1177, if it passes, it doesn't mention anything about any House bills or any bills or laws that come into effect. What it is saying is that that enactment of legislation that infringes upon the people's constitutional rights that we already have, is considered to be an unconstitutional law and beyond the legislative authority, that gives discretion. That House Bill 1177 does not give law enforcement officers discretion. But we can choose, and there is and I would like to point it out, there is a liability clause in there under 13-14.5, 1113, that except as provided in that section of 111 of 14.5 article, does not impose criminal or civil liability on any person or entity for acts or omissions made in good faith related to obtaining an extreme risk protection order or a temporary extreme risk protection order, including but not limited to reporting, declining to report, investigating, declining to investigate, filing or declining to file a petition. I'm going to stand on that when it comes to temporary, okay? So I would just ask that everybody trust me to use common sense, okay? And that's what I have to say.
So I just want to be clear that the word sanctuary, if that's incorporated into this resolution, puts you at odds with any kind of a legislative bill that's passed by our governor and our legislature.
Right, because it says that the sanctuary would mean that it doesn't matter what it is.
We're outside of anybody's rules and regulations.
Yeah. Okay. Because I know that all of you agree with a lot of the laws that we have.
Sure, there are.
You know, so that's okay.
Thanks, Sheriff.
I don't see it that way. I don't see it that way at all. There is multiple counties that have used the word sanctuary. There's 14 in New Mexico.
That's right.
And I didn't come here to do this half-assed.
Good.
So we're going to have to vote on the word sanctuary. If the sheriff doesn't feel like that it's appropriate, then I would rather he take his name off and then we put the 3 commissioners' names on there.
Sheriff Nowlin, will you sign this with the word sanctuary in our resolution? Do you still want to be a part of this resolution?
We got a lot of authority, sir.
One more squat.
Where would the word sanctuary be?
We could just put it in a paragraph in the whereas clause, and then put it again at the bottom. Now therefore be it resolved. I mean, my feeling is that the commissioners don't have authority to bind you to.
They don't. I agree with the majority of it. What does Black Law's Dictionary define sanctuary as?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we would look it up, but I think legally what it's going to imply is that you're committing to not enforcing what the state law is, and so I think that's the determinative factor. I think it's a little bit easier if this is the city of Cortez who hires and fires their chief of police versus an independently elected official.
Right, they're under home rule, and we are under state government, branch of state government, so that puts us in a different, we're in a different bailiwick.
So I think we can still make that assertion with the sheriff's endorsement, but I don't think that legally we have a lot of ground to stand on if we don't have the sheriff signing on to that and stating that. So that's why I drafted it without it, but I think you guys, as long as you guys understand.
Yeah. Well, the first thing that I have to abide by is the oath of office that I swore to.
That's right.
And like I explained, it also says uphold the laws of the state.
This also says the Constitution and the Constitution of the state of Colorado.
That's where this says that if it's unconstitutional, I have that discretional authority. And that's what I agree with. So I'm not going to mince words with it. I still believe that wholeheartedly in responsible gun ownership, and I'll stand behind that, whether anybody thinks it's a sanctuary or not. It doesn't matter. Okay.
All right.
I have Black Law's definition of sanctuary.
Thanks, Jack.
Can't hear you. Black Law's definition of sanctuary is a place of temporary refuge and protection to avoid law enforcement.
Oh, there you go. That's why I said that. I could have put you on the spot. It does. There it is.
Why do we have sanctuary cities all over this country for illegal.
I know.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
You want your mind on
Okay, I think, I'm gonna go ahead and do this. I think that, you know, the number one thing for me here is that I do not wanna put our law enforcement, our sheriff, our deputies into harm's way. I mean, they are already in harm's way every day, and 30 years of my life was spent in the fire service, and I've seen what these guys do. So I think that we're going to make this assertion, and I am going to move resolution number 4, 2019, opposition to infringement upon the constitutional right to keep and bear arms, forward.
I really feel like it needs to have sanctuary on there. I can't believe I would vote against something that I believe in so much, but I just don't understand how all of these other counties throughout the United States can do it with the word sanctuary, and we can't, from one definition, proposed definition.
Well, it could be very intentional, that it puts them in the sheriff in the place where that he will not enforce a law by our legislature that comes down from our legislature that conflicts with his belief in the federal constitution and the state constitution. So maybe that's an essential word in this, that it then he has to pick which law he's going to abide by. And whether he's going to stay with the state constitution and the federal constitution, or if he's going to follow the legislature, which I think the whole idea behind this entire resolution is our disagreement with what our state legislature is about to put on us. So maybe it actually gives the sheriff an opportunity to say, I'm picking the oath of office that I took to abide by my federal constitution, state constitution, and state laws, but only in the event that those laws don't conflict with the state constitution and the federal constitution. So maybe it's an avenue for him to then hold his ground on supporting constitutional law, not legislative law. Would that work?
Whether or not, how the court would interpret that, Sheriff Nowlin's trying to challenge this in court. I can't really tell you for sure how that.
I think the people that crafted this as a sanctuary, they didn't do that by mistake. I don't think they used that word not knowing what the definition of that word was. So I think it may bring into play what Commissioner Soup was referring to, that it's going to make us look at which laws we feel like are the laws that govern us, even though our legislature may propose laws that we don't agree with.
Could I say something?
Sure, it's still public comment time. Come on up.
Well, I'll
Come
say
up to
it.
the microphone, please. Identify yourself and.
I'm Vincent H. Lopez, Senior, 767 Aspen Drive. So we have state laws. I don't know much about laws, but I know we do have the Constitution law, right? Constitution of the United States of America. So by law, I've seen what Mr. Succo has said here. What is New Mexico doing? What are the sheriffs doing? My nephew started in Grants, New Mexico.
With all due respect to you, sir, as sheriff.
He in his county has a lot of authority. Maybe that's something you need to look at, Mr. Nolan, on how much authority he has, whether it be the state or the United States Constitution. I believe you hold a lot of the United States Constitution law, and you have a lot of authority. And I have it at home on Facebook of what my nephew went through and the laws that he looked into and how much authority he has. So I would think that'd be something that you need to look at, sir. That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
All right.
We got a three-peat.
I got a three-peat. Two things. I want to apologize to Bern Heath for using a disparaging remark towards him. I was emotional. The other thing is, we are all emotional. As the longer this hearing has drawn on, the more emotionality is. So I go back to my first comment. You guys can take a break on this. You can vote on it next week and let everybody's emotion calm down.
Thank you, Tom.
I appreciate all your comments and I agree with them. But I think what Mr. Sickler is wanting is putting Steve Allen in a very delicate position. You have his total support without the word sanctuary in it. But when you put the word sanctuary in it, you're present putting him at risk. And it was so much better with his signature on the bottom without the word sanctuary. It's the same effect. You get the same bottom line. But I think you get a lot more support with Steve. I'm not saying he's not going to sign it, but you're going to get rid of risk doing it.
I didn't finish my letter because I went on too long, but I think I can, the questions that I had that I wanted to get into the record, I could finish up with these because there's some of what we've just been kind of hashing out here, and I don't really have the answers, but my questions and concerns about this proposal to have this county become a gun sanctuary, are these resolutions mainly symbolic? If not, what would be the benefits and the cost to the people of Montezuma County? How would a city or town within that county be affected by such a resolution? How might it affect the local tourism economy? Does any law anywhere give county commissioners the legitimate power to declare state or federal law unconstitutional? Could costly lawsuits result? And thank you for your time. I'm glad I got to finish my letter.
James, Garland House, 33 Texas Street, Cortez. Who gets to vote on this? The board?
Yeah.
For the sanctuary thing? Okay, I support you guys all the way. I believe in having guns. I don't want somebody, my next door neighbor, saying that I can't. I don't know what else to say except. Okay?
Thank you.
Rebecca Busick, Road 26 Dolores. I completely agree with Tom Seymour. It seems like this conversation has snowballed into something of the county commissioners may be picking and choosing which laws they want to enforce, and I don't actually think that that was the intent of this today. So I feel like there should be some time, and it sounds like more research has to be done before the word sanctuary can use, before a resolution with that word should be on it. I support the sheriff enforcing the law, and I think if you put him in a bind, it doesn't actually respect the people who voted him into office. So, thank you.
I think it's very clear in our resolution. It says that Montezuma County of Colorado opposes enactment of legislation that infringes upon the people's constitutional rights. So, well, that will yet to be determined. But in that mere statement, we are being a sanctuary state that we're saying we're not going to abide by legislation that opposes our constitutional rights.
But words do matter.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I was just going to have her come back up to
Hi, I'm Marie Patel, 207 10th Street, Dolores. I just wanted to add, I'm really opposed to you putting sanctuary in this. I think it makes us look like a bunch of lawbreakers. We're governed by the rule of law. And as a citizen of this county, I respect the sheriff, and I don't always agree with what happens here, but I respect you. And I feel like it shows a lack of respect for the law when you put sanctuary in there and you ask the sheriff to break the law, because you're asking him to differentiate between what he interprets as constitutional law on the U.S. side and what is Colorado law on the other side. I am not opposed to us putting forth this bill in opposition. I think as a county, it's pretty apparent this is what we want. I'm just opposed to us picking and choosing which laws we're going to obey. I think it makes us look lawless, and I would really appreciate if you, as a citizen of this county, you represent me too. I don't want to be a lawbreaker. My father served during the Korean War. My husband served during the Vietnam War. We fight for things that keep us as law-abiding citizens, and I would just ask that you respect that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amanda Winter. I just have one more thing to add. So in this resolution, I'm not reading anywhere where it says that you're not going to uphold laws. It's saying that you are not going to uphold things that are unconstitutional. Correct. And from what I believe or remember, the federal constitution is higher than a state law. Like yes. Most times when we have to decide between things, a lot of times the federal law gets picked over a state law, from what I understood. I could be wrong on that. But going back to this and back to the sheriff, I don't see anywhere here where it says the sheriff gets to decide if, oh, that's my neighbor that just committed murder, so I'm not going to choose to uphold that law. This is saying that you are not going to, and I believe the sanctuary word is important because, like Commissioner Sukla said, you don't come here to do this half-assed. And excuse my language, but I really believe in this, and I really I get kind of emotional with this stuff, but it is not saying anywhere here that our sheriff has to choose between laws. It is saying that he is going to uphold the Constitution, right. The same thing he already took an oath for. That was his oath to get into office. So I believe you're saying you're a sanctuary of the Constitution. You're not saying here that you're just a sanctuary to gun laws or whether you can choose, and people go on and on about what laws you can choose. We're not talking about every single law. We're talking about this one that is unconstitutional and this one that can target a lot of innocent people. Right. Thank you.
Yeah. Could we add the word sanctuary for the Constitution? And may I also follow that statement with saying it's pretty darn sad when we need to provide a sanctuary for our Constitution in this country.
Right.
The federal Constitution and the state Constitution of Colorado provide the means to enact legislation. When that is enacted according to the law and according to conditions, we're obligated to follow the law. If we decide to not enforce one law, what's to stop the next group from deciding to not enforce another law? I know there's constitutional issues, but there's procedures to follow. We're obligated to follow the law. And as I said, I approve of this, sending as a resolution of Montezuma County's opinion to the state. I agree with that. Do not believe you have the authority to ask us to become lawbreakers. Yes. You talk about other sanctuary cities, sanctuary counties for illegal immigrants. They're illegal. Simple as that. Let's not become one of those.
All in, all done?
I have one question. Somebody, do I need to come up?
Sure. Last one. Last one.
Yeah, sorry, this will be short. Like me, I'm Carolyn Landis at 15124 Road 28, Dolores. Somebody mentioned earlier that the extreme risk protection order in the State House right now is on the governor's desk, ready to be signed, and I don't think that's accurate. Does anybody have updated information about the status? I think it's just moved out of committee, and it'll go on to the Senate. So the feedback that we all are hearing and have here, there's still chances to make a law that possibly more people could support without it infringing on rights or going against the Constitution. So don't give up in the process. I feel really strongly about that. And maybe it would help to, I know there's been a lot of debate over how the changes in this extreme risk protection order changed from last year to this year, and a lot of it involves the feedback from law enforcement. So I'm wondering if maybe a little bit more education about how that bill could possibly be made better to work, to not put good citizens, like we're hearing here today, in positions of being lawbreakers, and definitely not our sheriff. I don't want that to happen. Thank you.
Yeah, we've got about 4 minutes left.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate everything you do for us. And you too, Sheriff. My name is Ken Vance, Dolores, Colorado. I thought I'd put this to rest here. This Constitution, Citizens Rulebook, Law of the Land. The general misconception is that any statute passed by legislation bearing the appearance of law constitutes the law of the land. The U.S. Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and any statute to be valid must be in agreement. It is impossible for a law which violates the Constitution to be valid. This succinctly stated as follows: all laws which are repugnant to the Constitution are null and void. That's Mulberry versus Madison. Where rights secured by the Constitution are involved, there can be no rulemaking or legislation which would abrogate them. Miranda versus Arizona. An unconstitutional act is not law. It confers no right and imposes no duties, affords no protection, it creates no office. It is in legal contemplation as inceptive as thought it had never been passed. Norton versus Shelby County. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, so we're closing the public comment. It's over. Mr. Candelaria has proposed there's a movement on the floor. Would you restate that motion, please?
Due to the overwhelming response that I've heard here today, and not wanting to put our sheriff's officers, deputies in harm's way, I do not support House Bill 19-1177, and I would move forward Resolution Number 4, 2019, opposition to infringement upon the constitutional right to keep and bear arms, with the sheriff's signature included.
I can't second it without the word sanctuary.
I don't believe I can second it either after hearing what that gentleman said about unconstitutional legislation. I think that's exactly what this House bill is going to be if they pass it in the form that it's in. It will be a conflict to the constitutional rights, both of the state constitution and of the federal constitution. So that motion failed due to lack of a second. Is there another motion on the floor?
I move to approve the resolution and add the word sanctuary with the changes that the sheriff had provided. All over the place.
I would ask that you draft it so that you can see it.
Say that again?
I would ask that we redraft it, if we're gonna put the word sanctuary in there so that we can visualize it. I would like to have a little bit more time to read it and research it with that there. Asking our attorney to do that for us.
Do you want us to try to do it every month, or instead of review next week?
Next week.
I would like to have a week.
Did you say, Commissioner?
I'd like to have a week to deal with the sanctuary implications.
Okay.
Can I make a suggestion? Based upon public comment, when we follow this up next week, could we do it after working hours?
Yes, please.
Also, we're supposed to meet with the city of Cortez next Tuesday, which is March 5th, so you may take another day of the week.
I would say this, I'm leaving for Washington DC Friday to fight for the state of Colorado, your rights at a higher level, and I will not be here on next Tuesday for that vote.
Can we do it Wednesday?
Friday.
We can always hold a special session before it on Thursday.
We could do Thursday evening when the public can be here.
I'm okay with that.
I am as well.
All right. This action has been tabled until changes in the draft proposal are in place with the sanctuary, the word sanctuary in our resolution. We will reconvene Thursday evening at 6:30. 6:30. And then we will then proceed and see if we can come to an agreement on the resolution and take a vote Thursday evening.
What time?
All in favor of that?
6:30 this coming Thursday, which would be the 28th, here in this room, 18:30 hours. I am in favor of that.
Second.
Okay, we moved and seconded to table this until Thursday evening at 6:30 here in Board County Commissioners Chambers. We'll see if we can arrive at a decision. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All right. I think we're on with our agenda now. We will now move to our Mr. Eugene Felker, if he's in the audience, and our Raceway Fairground. Thank you all for attending today. I think it was very productive. Thank you very much. Thank you guys for
You know what the
coming.
bottom line is, Sheriff, to me? We've had a bunch of people in Washington DC commit treason to the oath office of the Constitution of the United States. I called Fort Gardner the other day. I was so mad because they got one of our Navy SEALs locked up in a bunch of BS.
Filled with moments. Moments we share with those we love, worry about, and strive to protect the most. At Woodman Life, we provide insurance and retirement products to help protect you and your family so that you can enjoy all the moments to come.
You be careful. I'm affiliated with Sheriff Department. I've been in council for a long time. I've been Sheriff Department. So I understand you know that. Today's market. You be careful.
I want to say I'm glad to see you in there. It's not because like now. You can